friend is not someone who stays silent when lies are being told by the federal government. That's not a friend. Again, emotionally manipulative. The family can't have you finding out who actually killed him. The family can't have you looking into those things of who was pressuring him behind the scenes. That's not good for the family. Bothers me. I have to be honest with you. That bothers me. So Charlie writes in this group chat, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Somebody writes, ugh. Charlie writes, Jewish donors play into all of the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. So again, this is 48 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was very clear and he was very explicit, and he did not back down, not in that Hamptons meeting, which they're all lying about, nor in this text thread. Happy Monday, everybody. Today we are going to discuss, or rather I'm going to introduce to you a psychological strategy that I refer to as David Hogging somebody. You guys remember David Hogg of the Parkland shooting tragedy? Of course you do. Well, it seems like Turning Point USA is now engaging in this strategy of David hogging the public. And I wanted to be clear that it is downright manipulative, and I've really had enough of it. We have, at this moment, no definitive understanding of what happened on the day that he was assassinated. But what we do know definitively is that the feds are lying to us. That is obvious. It is abundant. If you're able to think thoughts, you recognize that something is very wrong with the story that has been presented to the public. And I think that what the public doesn't understand, and I count myself among the public, is why it seems as though Turning Point USA executives, and I'll say seems, are not even remotely interested in challenging that official narrative. They're not interested in challenging it publicly, at least. In fact, I think it was an ex-user that pointed out, he put it rather bluntly when he said, so they want us to forgive Tyler Robinson, but to attack the people that are trying to solve the murder of Charlie Kirk? Like, that's not right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. Of threats of lawsuits. We're collecting evidence of it. What are we even talking about? And I want to say that what's been bothering me in particular are the micro lies. It seems that they're suddenly in the business of telling micro lies, tiny little misrepresentations, tiny little half-truths that right out of the gate seems altogether unnecessary. It really makes me wonder, who are they protecting exactly? You'll see oftentimes they and other influencers will invoke Erica as the reason that it's not appropriate to ask questions. It's just not appropriate. While Erica is still mourning for you guys to ask any questions. And I'm just going to come back at you with some common sense. What sort of widow wouldn't want people to investigate the assassination of their husband? She has not explicitly said that, but the influencers are invoking that, right? They're invoking it's not appropriate right now for people to be asking questions. That's what I mean when I say they are David hogging us, okay? You could also use another example, somebody that was on the right, Kyle Khrushchev. What essentially means is that when a tragedy takes place and we are emotional, our emotions are raw. Me especially, I think this was the first time where I couldn't really check my emotions. I'm just now like moving out of the grief stage. There will be people that then will try to manipulate you, right? They will try to manipulate you by using that strategy of saying, well, it would be really wrong. It would be really wrong for you to look beneath this layer or to ask a question about this. And it would be an injustice to Charlie Kirk's legacy, really. If you really loved him, then you shouldn't do this, okay? Because the tragedy just happened. And they did this, David Hogg. You're not allowed to question David Hogg. Like, he suddenly became an authority. And no matter what he said, we were kind of told by the journalist that it made perfect sense and he should go to Harvard. And, obviously to the extent that anybody suffers and survives a school shooting, I'm with you. And I think that that's totally fair. But then when you go beyond that, it starts to feel a little bit like you're emotionally manipulating us and that you're actually trying to silence people who have valid questions or criticisms or concerns. That strategy, like I said, it worked on me in the beginning. I was definitely completely worked by it. And I was feeling like, even though I knew that they were telling white lies, that I should just allow it and to instead focus my entire attention on just unpacking the federal lies. But Rob in particular knew for an absolute fact that Charlie was done with Israel bullying him. That's what bothers me so much about this man. Him allowing these headlines, Charlie's pastor speaks out, crushes Candace because of what she said, not whatever. I don't like it. He knew, and others knew, that Charlie was done with Israel bullying him, and I am now going to present you proof of what I am saying. This is an actual group chat, which happened 2 days before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. There were 9 people in total on this chat, including Charlie and Rob McCoy. I'm going to protect the names of the other 7 for now. To be clear, I might actually release a name every day this week, but I want to show you this because suffice it to say, Rob McCoy was on this text thread, and I think it helps contextualize him as a person, in my view, that he would attack me for telling the truth about the pressure that he was facing. Take a look. So Charlie writes in this group chat, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Somebody writes, ugh. Charlie writes, Jewish donors play into all of the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Then somebody writes, a donor writes, please do not invite Candace. That might feel good short term, but it's not good long term. In my opinion, like all groups, you're going to get a wide variety of opinions. That nasty free will thing that God bestowed on us makes life frustrating at times after the dust settles a bit, maybe. So again, this is 48 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was very clear and he was very explicit, and he did not back down, not in that Hamptons meeting, which they're all lying about, nor in this text thread. I'm not going to reveal the names of the other 7. Actually, you know what? I disagree with myself 4 seconds ago. Let's just throw in Josh Hammer for funsies. He's on this chat, okay? So what are we to make of that? Okay, now that I'm showing you this and showing to you that the conversations were real, I want you to reflect, and it took me a lot of patience to allow the lies that were being woven and the misrepresentations of people that were pretending that I was just, high on lying about Charlie and the pressure he was under, the attacks that not just me, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly faced for trying to stand up and tell the truth about what Charlie was actually going through. Why are you hearing it, though, from me and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly? Isn't that weird? You got people that are hosting a show. Have they, in one honorable thing, come out and said, you know what? F a couple of these donors who made his life a living hell over the last couple of weeks. Why haven't they done that? There's also a rabbi in that chat. Why hasn't anybody made that move to at least say, to vindicate what I have been saying about what he was going through? That registers to me as very suspicious. I'm going to frankly say that it's suspicious to me. It makes me think that in the same way that Charlie was being pressured by money, that you might be now run by that same money, that those same donors might be running you to correct the ship and to focus yourselves on eulogizing Charlie as something and someone that never once flinched, never once for a single second doubted the Israeli cause. Now they want us to suddenly believe the best way to honor Charlie is to shut up, the exact opposite of what he quite literally laid down his life doing. Answering questions, turning point. Answering the questions is what he was doing in the second that he died, okay? And we all are feeling spiritually the same way, so I'm just going to say it. They're not grieving right. It's not up to us to decide how people grieve, but I will say unequivocally that you shouldn't grieve by lying or by gaslighting. Is that fair? Can we all agree? You should not grieve by lying and gaslighting the public. They want us to believe that the only way that we can support and honor Charlie's legacy is by donating our money. But it would not be supportive for us to try to figure out who killed him and why the feds are lying. We should instead just trust the feds and excuse their little half-truths that they're telling along the way. If releasing footage, okay, if releasing clear footage of what happened on that day means that you are going to lose in court, that it probably signifies that the person that you are trying to bring to court didn't do it. If they're somehow vindicated by the footage, if you're like, I released the footage of him jumping down on the center and I show him firing the shot, but like that totally vindicates him, then you got the wrong guy, right? Having more footage, examining more footage, and examining more evidence should further incriminate Tyler Robinson. It should also go a very long way in getting people off of these quote unquote conspiracies. Common sense, this is what I said from the beginning. Release the footage, which you do have in your possession. It's not like just the feds have this footage. Release the footage because then people will move on from quote unquote conspiracies. So everything they're saying right now doesn't make sense. And they're not smarter than the public, right? And Turning Point is not going to survive this sort of an attitude, name calling, threats to sue, calling people demonic, possessed by demonic spirits because they're rightfully asking questions of the most high profile political assassination since JFK. It's just not going to work. Free PR advice. It is not going to work.